All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Steve Cooper's podcast for aspiring real estate investors. In each episode, we try to connect with industry subject matter experts and investors who have something that they can share, some special tips or tricks or things that they're doing, and some profession that they're able to help you understand better. So for today, hang on, before I go too much further, please make sure you hit the like button. I would love it if you subscribed, and if you enjoy these podcasts, please feel free to share them with your friends. Now, back to where I was. Okay, so today's guests are real special people. They're actually going to tell us some things that I'm really curious about. They've been real estate investors for 15 or plus years now, private lending experts. They're Ottawa's award-winning real estate investment couple. And as certified real estate and investment advisors, specializing in unconventional financing and advice investment strategies. Needless to say, I'm reading this off the page, folks. I am so excited to welcome Denise and Stuart MacPherson. Denise and Stuart, did I get anything wrong? Please correct me, and otherwise, tell us more about yourselves.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for having us, Steve. That's wonderful. So, do you want to start, Stuart?
Well, we are Denise and Stuart MacPherson. We live in Ottawa. Denise and I had come to Ottawa as federal public servants, as so many people in the Ottawa area do.
Yeah.
Um, we met in the early to mid 1990s. We had each gone through a divorce. And as anyone who has gone through a divorce or who knows someone who's gone through a divorce, it can really do a nasty thing to your finances.
Creating much havoc, let's just say.
So when we
Yeah.
got together, we were rebuilding. We had the advantage of a good government job, but savings were shot. And at the time, we were in our early to mid 40s. And we saw that retirement was just down the road, not that far away. And so we started taking a look and realized that we needed to do something different than just the 9 to 5 in order to make sure
And
that
actually, it wasn't just 9 to 5 for the hours that we worked, unfortunately.
Right.
We're part of the 80-20 rule. Well, we're the 20% that was doing 80% of the work.
Right.
So it wasn't just a 40-hour week we were putting in.
I know it well.
so we started off taking a look at what we could do as a side hustle. And I have to admit that we spent some time taking a look at various things. And um, at one point, Denise had taken me to a trade show
A symposium. Yeah.
where they were promoting a number of different opportunities. And one of them was real estate investing. And we thought, well, let's try this. And we signed up. And luckily here in Ontario, there is a little bit of a cooling off period where you can request a refund, because when we got home and reality set in, we thought we're burning 70 to 80 hours a week in the office. And there's no way that we're going to be doing real estate business on government time. So when the heck are we going to do this?
So we got a refund.
And proceeded to take a look around for something else we could do.
Oh no.
Well, fast forward until around 2008. And by that point, we had decided that at one point, we thought the stock market sounded really good. And this was right at the time of the dot-com boom.
Yeah.
And
That turned into a bust very quickly from the time we invested.
I think they call it the prime mortgage meltdown. Isn't that?
well, actually, the prime mortgage meltdown came in 2008.
That's right.
This was the dot-com bust that happened around 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have to say that we did not lose everything
Hmm.
in the dot-com bust.
We kept $18.34 out of tens of thousands of dollars. So it wasn't completely zero.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
So
It was a lesson learned.
around 2008, 2009, we started realizing that we needed to do something else. And we thought we'd take a look at real estate. But I refer to it as our investing MBA, which is where we spent all that money by investing in something that we didn't understand.
Right.
And we decided at that point that we needed to educate ourselves. So most of 2009, we spent taking courses, learning about real estate investing.
Still getting paid by the government at that point. So we were studying on weekends and that.
Yeah.
And then
January 29th.
Denise came home from
2010.
work. She came home from work one day and said, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I said, good, quit. We were lucky that I had an executive position in the government, and we knew that Denise was getting frustrated. And so we decided to try just to live off Stuart's salary, just to see if we could do it.
Oh, for the last year, yeah, before I left.
And when we realized that we could do it, we thought, okay, we're fine. Denise wants to quit. She can quit. We don't need her salary.
So that gave us a boost there to actually get into education. And at the time, education was expensive, but we also got a mentor, and that's something we advocate for everybody. We've had mentors throughout, you know, all of our lives, basically, but even like through a career in real estate, we've always had mentors kind of just helping us, guiding us along, you know, and stuff like that. So that helped. But basically, as Stuart says, we started with nothing. We started in the negative, and we knew we'd have to create a better retirement for ourselves. And we had to find a way. And we finally thought, well, why not real estate? So that's why we started with courses. And I thought, we're not going to jump in the way we did with stocks. We're going to get educated first. So we understood what we were doing. And like I said, my actual date of retirement was January 10th, 2010. And we started investing the next day.
Perfect.
Because I thought there's no waiting. But the hours we were putting with government before, we thought we can do this in our own business. Why not? Right? Rather than making somebody else get rich, why not, you know, put that time in for ourselves? But for us, it's like everything else. Like when Stuart didn't mention, but just even our RRSPs, the TFSAs were not in when we first met, but just the RRSPs had totally tanked. And I remember in an 8-year period where after 8 years, I had less than what I was 8 years before.
Right.
And I thought, there's no way that we're going to have a retirement income here unless we do something different. And that's what we ended up doing, is getting into real estate. But I'm sure you're going to ask us questions about real estate. So, I mean, that's kind of what it led us right up to there. We just had to rebuild our lives, and we had to find a way to secure a future for ourselves. And then throughout this time, Stuart and I have always had sort of a heart of service. So we did a lot of volunteer work, even though we worked hard throughout the government and stuff like that. And that led us to do even more over time.
You know, what your story resonates, I'm sure, with so many people, but especially with my own. I'm a third-time lucky husband, so I recognize the foundation that started you off here. And I also, you know, at this point in time, and my RRSPs were riding through that 8-year period as well. So I've got firsthand experience with exactly what you're saying. I'm riding in that same ship, and I love your story. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next chapter looks like here as we go through this all, because it's a great book. So tell us more. So you've started investing in real estate. How did you begin? And I mean, there's a point here where you learned about registered funds that I'm really excited about. So let's hear how the story unfolds.
Well, the funny thing is, we were taking real estate courses, like I said, in Toronto. And we were at one of the weekend courses, and we were a group of real estate investors speaking, and it was a break or something like that. And all of a sudden I said, who said that? And they go, what? And I said, I heard the words RRSP mortgage. And the people I was talking to, nobody heard it. And there was nobody close by, nobody walking by. I don't know if it's divine intervention or what that dropped that little seed in my head. I don't know. But it tweaked my interest. Like, we were taking courses. I hadn't quite left government yet, so we hadn't started investing. So I thought, I've got to learn what this is about, because this may be a way for us to get our RRSPs back. What does it mean? What is it? Like, what do I do? So I started doing a lot of research and talking to lawyers and finding out that, wow, I could learn my RRSPs on a mortgage. So I was leaving government. So at the time, they don't do it now, but at the time they gave you a severance pay when you left at time of retirement. So I got a severance pay. So I thought before I did anything, that amount of money that I got from the government, I basically took it in RRSPs. We were going to take it in cash till we saw how much tax we were going to pay on it. So we thought, because my RRSPs had tanked, and I felt it's not money I had seen before. So I thought, well, let's see what I can do with this. So that amount of money, next time we went to one of our courses, there was a group of 8 investors sitting around the table. And I just said, who wants this many thousands of dollars for an RSP mortgage? I still did not know what an RSP mortgage was. I just knew it existed, right? And everybody said, pick me, pick me, pick me. And I go, wow. And all of a sudden they started bidding amongst each other. And I'm just watching this. I thought, wow, this is awesome. And then when the bidding started to slow down, I just said sold. And I did a 3-year rent to own.
Nice.
And then I went back and talked to the lawyer, said, I have no idea what I'm doing. But she says, well, I've never done one either. So let's do it together. So we did learn. And that lawyer, I mean, went on to do tons and tons and tons. So did we, for that matter, of mortgages. But we each started, like I started with a lawyer that I was doing the first mortgage with her, and I'm doing my first RSP mortgage. But it did not take long that the light bulb went on. And I thought, these people are borrowers. I can reverse the tables and I can become a borrower. And I said, Stuart, I think we've got our answer. And that's exactly what we did. So we loaned out first and then reversed the process, and we started borrowing. And that's how we did our acquisitions in real estate, is by borrowing other people's registered funds. Now, I will say, I know it sounds like a lot. I mean, it is a lot in a sense, but we've got an 8-figure portfolio, and that's 8 figures of money that we've able to borrow to be able to get to where we are today. So let's just say we've learned so much experience of doing mortgages because that's what we've been doing.
I mean, somebody might sort of wonder why we wanted to borrow other people's registered funds. And there's really 2 reasons for that. One is that most people are getting really poor returns on the registered funds going to traditional financing. Yep. We were able to offer them a much better return on their money so that we could help them grow their RRSPs the way we were growing ours.
Because that's how we felt great about when I loaned mine. I thought maybe it's a way of recouping all the money that I lost. And I can tell you, since we got into real estate and we took all of the rest of our registered funds and put them in, at the time, mortgages. Now we're doing other things as well, but at the time when we started, it was just mortgages. And all I saw was growth. And I thought, this is amazing. There's none of the ups and downs of the stock market. It's just steady growth.
Right on.
And when somebody gives you an interest rate, let's say they give you 10%, it's not 10% minus fees, because the borrower pays for all of the fees involved, all of the legal costs involved. And having them with a trustee that will allow mortgages, then all of the fees that are there are all paid by the borrower. So if I'm going to get 10%, I get a true 10%, not minus fees like you do through the banks. You put that in mutual funds, and just that little tiny fee of 2.5 of the management expense ratio. We've shown it in a table, is that, let's say over the span of, let's say 20, 30 years, half of your money is already gone because of that little 2.5% fee.
I would love to see that table at some point in time.
It's amazing.
I feel the truth in everything you're saying there. I feel it because I've watched my portfolio basically sit stagnant, and then you throw tariffs and other things into it, and I watch it take nosedives and roller coaster rides up, down, and all around. You don't know where it's going to be tomorrow. So these are registered funds that we save for our retirement, and we don't know where they're going to be when we retire.
Yeah.
So
and we're talking here RRSPs, TFSAs, LIRAs, RIFs, LIFs, RESPs, just about every registered fund that's out there that can be used in private mortgages. So what you have are people that can get involved in real estate, but they don't have to worry about being a landlord. They don't have to worry about doing repairs. They don't have to own it. They don't have to manage it. They're just on mortgage, and it allows an investor like us, or it could be some other investor, but allows us that growth of growing our portfolio while we help them grow their retirement income.
Right on. Right on.
Now,
Can
the
you
one
tell
thing
us
I
a
wanna
little bit
mention-
of, sorry, go ahead, Stuart.
One thing I want to mention, Steve, is that when we got involved in this and we decided to do our research about RRSP mortgages, the background that Denise and I had, we worked for a regulatory department. So we understood the importance of government rules and understanding the rules and following the rules. Now, here's where I make my admission, mea culpa. Of my 31 years in the federal government, 5 of those were with the taxation department.
Right.
And so because of that, I'm not afraid to read the CRA documents. I can understand a lot of what they're saying in there, and I can understand how to go and research things. So one of the first things we did is we learned the rules that CRA has around RRSP mortgages and how to use them. Because the big thing is, and we unfortunately have known some people that did not follow the rules. And Canada Revenue Agency has an interesting thought process when it comes to registered funds. Until the taxes are paid on those funds, they think it's their own money.
Right.
And they don't want you to use their money unless it's in line with the rules. And if they catch you using them, those funds inappropriately, they will do what's called deregistration. Deregistration is quite nasty because what that means is if they find out that you broke the rules 5 years ago, they will deregister your fund as of the time of the transaction that broke the rules. And when they deregister the funds, you immediately owe the income tax payable on those funds.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
Going
goodness.
back 5 years. So not only do you owe the tax, but you owe the interest that would have accrued because you hadn't paid the tax. And there's a chance you're going to owe penalties as well. So the bottom line is anytime we're talking to anybody about what we do, one of the first things that I always say is, you're going to find people out there that are sort of in the gray area, sometimes even in the black area, trying to use registered funds in a way that is inappropriate. Don't do it. It's not worth the risk. There is so much positive availability following the rules. It's just a matter of understanding the rules.
Wow. That's a wake-up call. So I was going to ask, maybe you can explain for those that don't understand, what is a private mortgage and how does that work? Just high level. Tell us the bones of this.
You're starting or am I starting? So I get back and forth here. As a real estate investor, if you want to grow a portfolio, you've got to buy properties. But as you know, as an investor or any new investor starting, they save up that money and they buy the property, but they need to get a mortgage. And a mortgage is part of that money is borrowed, usually from the bank. Same as, think of it as even if it was your own personal home. Most people, when they buy a home, they get a mortgage. You know, they allow a certain amount of money as a down payment and the rest is loaned by the bank. And then you pay that back along with interest.
Yeah.
And let's just say when they say it's a 25-year amortization, it's because you paid 25 years to pay that house. You've probably paid it 2-3 times over when you consider all of the interest that you've paid. But when you have a private mortgage, you do that because depending on why you want to buy that property, it may not be as feasible to go to a bank to get that mortgage, especially if, for instance, we'll just give you a plain idea. Let's say if you want to do a flip, well, banks don't like to loan money on a very short mortgage because flips don't take that long. It may take a year, may take 6 months, may take 3 months, doesn't matter. Banks do not like to loan money like that. So if you can borrow the money and that buys the property, then you do all the renovations that you want to do, then you sell it, then you pay back the mortgage with the interest that it's accumulated, and you have a profit left, which is great, which allows you to do more real estate. But when investors start and they use their own money, because it takes a while to save 30, 40, 50, 60, and now we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in terms of a down payment, is like, how long are they going to have to save? They just can't. So they've got to find creative ways to be able to buy properties. Yeah. And what better way to help people that have what we call sometimes sleeping money, because when it's cash, it's easy to spend.
Yeah.
But a registered fund, you know, you're putting it there. And unfortunately, some people put it with the banks and they wait 30 years, okay, time to retire. Now I want to get it out. And they don't realize how much more lucrative it would have been had they found a different types of investment. But having these mortgages just allows people to borrow those funds like a bank. I mean, when you put money at the bank uses your money and loans it out to other people. Well, you can take your own money, you can take your own registered funds. And the key thing is you don't take your money out. It still stays within that umbrella of the registered plan. So it's just different type of paperwork, all following CRA rules, but that money just goes to a trustee. And basically, they're just kind of another financial institution. They just hold your money and they just make sure that it follows all of the CRA rules. But that money can be loaned out. And then when it comes back, it goes back into your RSP or your TFSA, back into your registered plan. So you can make it grow. But again, like I said, being able to borrow, then that allows us the opportunity to grow a different portfolio, not having to rely on the banks that, you know, they kibosh you basically with all of the lending rules they have, how they have sometimes a low loan to value, which means the money they have to bring in as a down payment will vary depending on the type of property that you buy. And sometimes that can be quite high. So the banks are always making rules. Sometimes the interest rate, well, the interest rate may be a little lower at the bank, but the thing is you don't have the flexibility. Like some mortgages, you're in there for 5 years, and if you break it, there are big, big penalties, and you don't want that. So when you borrow privately, then you have that flexibility.
And I mean, the big thing is that private lending is basically when an individual decides to make a loan that is secured on real estate.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And
So
the advantage that we have found with private lending is that, as Denise said, you're not subject to the bank rules. So you can negotiate between the borrower and the lender the terms that are going to be beneficial for both the borrower and the lender.
So many questions come to my mind as I'm listening to this. This is great education you're sharing. So can you have multiple investors on the same property with their individual RRSPs?
Absolutely. You can mix and match. You can use cash, you can use registered funds, you can use RSPs, TFSAs. So if you had an RSP and a TFSA, you can use both those amounts and invest in the mortgage. But usually as an investor, they need a higher amount to be able to buy the property with a smaller down payment, but a higher one. So it's very hard to find one person that, let's say you're buying a property now for, I don't know, let's say $700,000 or even $600,000. One person may not have close to that to be able to borrow from, but if you have 3, 4, 5 people, you may be able to get the money that you need, and that allows you to do that. And just to give you an example, I don't know if you've heard us, Steve, tell this story here, because we were looking, this one was an actual flip. We saw a property, it was in really bad shape, and we were there with a realtor, and we said, we're going to put in an offer. And we left the property, 10-minute drive till we're sitting in the realtor's office to put in the offer. During that time, I made 2 phone calls and I had the money to buy the property. So we sat down, wrote the offer. We got the property that same day and we closed within 5 days.
Wow.
When you build a network of people that you get to know you, like you, and trust you, because you are going to take care of the registered funds, you will return that money with interest, right? And that's the important part. Then they say, when's the next one? So it's kind of great because they have more interest, so that pot kind of grows a little bit more for their funds. So they're happy because their registered funds is growing without the ups and downs of the stock market, right? Because overnight you can go bang and lose tens of thousands of dollars.
I've watched it happen.
Well, that happened not that long ago, which is why I'm mentioning it, right? But we have not had any dips in ours. All we've seen is growth because we loan as well. So yes, it's all under the guise of private lending, but we're also coining the phrase private borrowing because it's not always lending.
Right.
I know it falls under the umbrella.
No, I love it. I love it.
But
Are you able to invest your own funds in your own properties, or is there a restriction?
Canada Revenue Agency has very strict rules about that.
For
And the
income
bottom line
properties.
is that you cannot invest your own registered funds in an income property unless it is also your primary residence. So for example, if your primary residence was in a triplex, then you might be able to follow some of the rules for non-arm's length mortgages that would allow you to invest in your own property. What we've found over time is that it's not worth the extra cost and the extra hassle, because there's all sorts of extra rules on there. You've got to follow bank rates. You've got to follow the bank qualification rules.
You've got to get it on mortgage insured. So the
So-
rates
So
just keep
let's just say
adding up.
no.
It's
And-
just, we
yeah.
found that it's much easier to deal with third parties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you'll
We will
lend yours
lend-
out
We'll lend ours to third
We-
parties.
and we borrow.
We'll borrow from other parties. But the one thing that we never do, and I will warn you right now, don't swap. Where, hey, Steve, I've got some RRSPs. You got some RRSPs? I'll borrow yours. You'll borrow mine, and it'll be a wash. When Canada Revenue Agency finds out, that's one of the rules that will break, and they'll deregister the funds.
Deregister.
So don't swap. There's always a much easier way that will involve third parties that follow the rules.
So could I borrow money from you? It's something that you would actually facilitate the idea of collecting funds from others to invest in a property that I'm raising capital for. Is that the sort of thing you do?
Oh,
That's
Because-
called brokering.
that's called brokering, and we are not mortgage brokers doing mortgages without a license. That's
Okay.
not what this is at all.
You can go to a mortgage broker
Yeah,
and have a mortgage broker facilitate something like that. A lot of mortgage brokers do work with clients who have registered funds
Okay.
and make them available. But again, the nice thing, the big thing is that brokers do a lot of hard work for that,
Yeah.
and they take on liability. So they're going to charge fees.
Right. Right.
so the whole thing for us and how we've managed with our portfolio and our whole real estate career so far is we're either the lender or the borrower. So we are always on mortgage,
Yeah.
one way or another. So either we're loaning out our funds or we're borrowing other people's funds.
For our own properties.
Yes.
So when you borrow somebody else's funds to procure a property, an investment property, you're on title
Yep.
and mortgage. Are the owners of the registered funds secured on title then as well? Are they second place mortgage for, how does that work?
Well, they're a mortgage holder the same as a bank would be. They
Yeah.
cannot hold equity in a property that they're investing their registered funds in,
Right.
but they are registered on title on the mortgage.
Okay.
And that's why we work with lawyers.
Right.
And in Ontario, I don't know, most of the work that we do is here in Ontario. In Ontario, if the value of the mortgage is going to be greater than $75,000, then each of the borrower and the lender must be represented by a lawyer. So you've got the two lawyers there in order to make sure that a person is protected.
And what we've done over the years is we have a roster of lawyers that we work with. Because it happened way back when we first started that we were about to close on a property, and I called the lawyer and said, hey, we're going to need a private mortgage for this. And she said, I can't do it. I thought, what do you mean you can't do it? She says, I can't do it, Denise. She says, I've lost my law clerk and I got 13 closes on that date. And I go, oh my, I said, now what do I do? And I thought, I will never put myself in that position again. So we have a roster of lawyers. So we always have. So we need a lawyer for lenders. Here's your lawyer and he'll take good care of you. And then we get our own, because there's a lawyer for the lenders and a lawyer for the borrowers to handle this. So we have, like I said, different lawyers that we work with. So there's always a lawyer available to be able to do this mortgage. And we've never got caught like that, with not having a lawyer to be able to get the close that we wanted. But this is the beauty. As Stuart says, you can't get equity when you're doing a private mortgage.
It's
And
just
what
interest
we've done over time, so we've done, like I said, a lot of mortgages, which is why we've gained that expertise right across Canada, actually. So we've spoken right across Canada. We've spoken on many stages on this because we've gained so much knowledge and expertise in dealing with private mortgages and all of the problems that can ensue Like people will never see them, but I've handled them. Trust me, it's just amazing. But the thing is now, not only have we done just about every strategy in real estate, we've now gone into developments. And that takes a whole lot of more money than just, let's say, a 300, a 500, a $600,000, whatever. Now you're talking millions, right? So as you've heard, is we have developed recently enough the SDMAC Capital Trust, which is a mutual fund trust that allows now to use. And the reason why we did that is because we've had so many investors invest with us for the last 15 years in registered funds that all of a sudden we're going to say, yes, I'll create a fund, but sorry, I can't use registered funds. Go elsewhere now. Thank you very much. And I thought, I can't do that, right? We've been helping these people. And when I say helping them, we have investors. Our average investor has done between 4 and 8 mortgages with us. So when one finishes, when's the next one? And remember, some of these mortgages can be 2 years, 3 years, so but they keep coming back. And I thought we've got to find a way to be able to keep using their money and helping them grow their retirement funds. So that's why we created a mutual fund trust, because that allows us to continue to use registered funds. So it's just another avenue, but now the bigger avenue for them is now they get to get equity in a project.
Oh, okay. Because they're in the trust.
Because they're in the trust, yes.
So basically what happens is that we've got it set up that people will buy units in the trust, and the trust will use those funds to buy shares in the corporation that's doing the development.
Oh,
so what will happen is that the investors are getting a return based on the growth that's happening with the development we're doing, plus over a period of time, they'll be receiving dividends from the rentals because we're keeping these properties. We're going to hold them. Our pro forma right now is showing a 10-year lifespan for the mortgage, for the property,
it's not a mortgage.
For the project.
Right.
And basically what we're doing is we've got it set up that we're building 6 unit buildings is our current project.
Nice.
So we're building 36 units.
And each of the buildings will be on a separate title, so that over time, we can either refinance or sell one or all 6 of the buildings and do a return of capital as a capital gain to our investors.
But so return of capital can actually happen a lot earlier. That's the fun part too, right? We did a webinar not that long ago about and it was just an educational webinar about building your own pension plan and explaining how you can be in a project, and then early on in the project, maybe 2.5, 3 years max, you get most of your return of your capital that you invested, but the original amount invested continues as equity. So now you get a return of capital, then you invest in a second project. Now you've got money still growing from your first project, and now you've got money now growing on the second project.
Love it. I love it.
And then you get the return of capital and you invest now in your third project. And all of a sudden you're building that retirement income. Yeah. And it's just fascinating. Like we had actually an actuary of pensions go through this with us, which is kind of nice. Yeah. But it was fantastic. But yes, people can build their own pension plan.
I love it. I love it. Guys, we're running close to the edge here. I got a couple of questions for you. First one is understanding your why. So I know why you started, but tell me what you're going for now. So you've got a vision somewhere in the future as to what you're trying to achieve. What does that look like? Well, how are you going to know when you've succeeded in getting there?
Well, we come from strong genes, so we're not ready to pull the plug yet or sit in the rocking chair and twiddle our thumbs. Okay, we're not ready for that. Stuart and I have a heart of service. And like I said, when we first put our lives together anyways, we were doing a lot of volunteer work. As a matter of fact, Stuart just finished 4 years as the...
I was the president of a nonprofit seniors housing corporation, 64 unit building. And I was term limited. I did my 2 terms as president. Yeah. So I'm now retired from that. But it's just the fact that it helped us contribute and help other people in their lives. We were once talking on stage, and there was a photo that we got posted on Facebook, and somebody who knows us, who's not involved in real estate, said, "What are you doing?" Well, Don R. Campbell, who was the founder of the Real Estate Investment Network, was a friend of ours on Facebook, and he saw that comment and he immediately replied back, "They're impacting the lives of others using real estate." And I love that line because it really encapsulated what Denise and I like to do.
We don't want to have people go through what we had to, wondering how we were going to manage our own retirement. We had to find a way. Now we want to be able to empower people to find that way so they can have a more comfortable retirement. Because honestly, at some point we wondered, what are we going to do? Like when we retire, like literally, like we are so in the negative, like what are we going to do? And we've had to change that. But you know what, as we grow, we help more people. We've got 9 grandchildren. So I envision the day where there's going to be 9 grandkids and all the kids and everybody, we're just going to just go take a big holiday all together and stuff like that, right? Because we'll be able to. And we have some in Germany and the US and the rest are in Canada, but still 9 grandkids. Like we want to be able to spend some time. We enjoy travel. We want to be able to travel.
Congratulations.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop the fact that we want to help as many people as we can. Like our parents like survived. They lived till their mid-90s and being very active till the last few months of their lives. And like we're just going to keep ordering and help as many people we can. And that's what we want to do, is impact as many people as we can.
A true inspiration. I love your story. Absolutely love every moment. Can I ask, how do people get in touch with you if they want to find you?
Well, we can email is info@deniseandstuart.com. So Stuart being STUART. And we're also at Denise and Stuart on Instagram. We're at Denise and Stuart on Facebook. Our website is deniseandstuart.com. Our email info@deniseandstuart.com. I mean, easy enough to find us.
Denise and Stuart it is.
That's how we're known, right? That's how we've kind of rebranded. We have the SDMAC brand.
Yeah.
And but you know, as you get more properties, you can't just use, or we used to use SDMAC properties and people still call us, hey, SDMAC, right? So, and SDMAC was standing for Stuart Denise MacPherson. That's how the SDMAC came, because although we're known as Denise and Stuart, D-SMAC did not sound good. So yeah, so we have the SDMAC group of companies now, and then as we grew, like I said, some are numbered company and there's other SDMAC. So that's why now it's the SDMAC group of companies that we have with our SDMAC Capital Trust in there as well. So
love it. Thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for joining me on Steve Couper's podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Steve. This has been great. Thank you.